Hola a todos, yo soy Samuel, y para los que no me conocen, estoy aprendiendo español. One of the most common questions I get asked is how to restart learning Spanish. Y esa pregunta es muy difícil de contestar porque todo el mundo tiene un nivel diferente de habilidad. Obviously, you don't want to start from zero because you're further along than that, but you can't just jump into a conversation with native speakers because you just haven't been able to grasp those complicated concepts. So maybe you took Spanish 1 back in high school, or you minored in Spanish in college, but you haven't touched the language for a while. By the end of this video, you'll be able to fill in the necessary gaps to get back on track. But before I break down the 3 phases to get back on track, I want to make one thing very clear. And if you've been out of the language learning game for a bit, there's one caveat that may have slipped your mind. Learning a language is a very boring, incredibly fulfilling, but horrendously mind-numbing experience. So, let's go ahead and jump right into Phase 1. If you haven't already, download the Duolingo app. The link is in the description. If by some miracle you're not familiar with Duolingo, it's the largest community of language learners. The app and all the courses are free, and I really hope you like it, because you're going to log on to that every day for a long time. The primary strength with Duolingo is reading and writing. It's a fantastic resource to get reacquainted with Spanish because you can test out of some of the early beginner basic skills, so you can cover a bunch of review pretty quickly and you'll get thrown right into some new concepts. There are also Duolingo stories and the Duolingo podcast, which could be beneficial, just all depends on your level. The further you go, the more challenging and educational the program becomes. You'll also get really good at explaining who is eating the apple and who is ordering a fish sandwich. Now, I've been on Duolingo for a long time, and I do have to say this. Some of you aren't ready to hear it, but Duolingo alone will not take you where you want to go. For listening and speaking, I highly recommend Pimsleur. It is a paid program, but in my opinion, it is the best language learning platform out there, and you can get your first week for free. The link is in the description. The Pimsleur Spanish course contains 150 30-minute episodes, which focus a lot more on real-world concepts, more beneficial vocabulary, less apples, less fish sandwiches. Now, on top of Duolingo and Pimsleur, to really refine your listening and speaking ability and to gain confidence in speaking the language, I also recommend the Language Transfer series. The link is in the description. There are 90 audio episodes in the course. They average 11 or 12 minutes each. And the Language Transfer series is less repeat after me and more language hacking. So you can take what you already know to be true in English and how to apply it to Spanish. And I can confidently promise you'll get your money's worth. Kind of a joke because it's free. There's no money involved. So after 90 days of consistent effort with Duolingo and Pimsleur, again, optional, but totally worth it, and after finishing the Language Transfer series, it's time to move on to Phase 2. In addition to continuing Duolingo and Pimsleur daily, we're also going to focus on some outside reading as well as truly understanding the spoken language. Reading is absolutely one of the best ways to learn a language. Too many people make the mistake of jumping into something familiar, like Harry Potter, but way too advanced. Others will also try children's books, but find that the stories are just not engaging, they get bored, and then they end up dealing with a bunch of vocabulary that they really don't need to know. You know, words like sticky and gooey and ooey and little things like that. So in order to strengthen reading, I recommend finding a graded reader. Graded readers are books that are written specifically for language learners, and they focus on the high-frequency words that you're going to need to know, and it's all packaged into a story that is actually somewhat entertaining for an adult. One of my favorite books to get started with this is called Short Stories in Spanish. The link is in the description. This book contains 8 short stories, again, written for an adult, designed to hold your attention. They also focus on high-frequency vocabulary that you're going to want to remember. Every story has a quick summary, a list of relevant vocabulary, as well as a short quiz. And I've tried ebooks before, but there's something about the physical book that just keeps me going. In order to ultimately graduate to speaking like a pro, you're going to have to figure out what's going on. Understanding the spoken language in real time is probably the most difficult part of this process. So you should surround yourself as much as you can with the language. This is going to frustrate you because depending on where you're at right now, there's just going to be a lot of spoken language that you don't understand and everything sounds like one long word. But you just got to stick with it. Remember the whole this is boring and mind-numbing part? This is one of those parts. To up your listening game, I recommend the Easy Spanish YouTube channel. The link is in the description. These are bite-sized street interviews that they do all over Latin America and Spain. I guess Spain's not in Latin America, is it? It's different Spanish-speaking countries. They interview people on the streets with cultural questions, things that you'd want to know. They also have subtitles in English as well as Spanish, so you can follow along. So go watch one a day, every day, and get that listening comprehension up. Another more frustrating, arguably more fun, depending on who you ask, task that you're going to be adding daily is watching a video from a Spanish-speaking creator. And if you haven't figured it out, you're doing this every day as well. So poke around on here in YouTube. I personally like Luisito Comunica. He posts a lot of comparison content, so it's super visual, and he's just a funny guy with great videos, so it's easy to follow along. Whoever you decide to watch, though, it's going to be difficult because you feel like you're not understanding a lot of things. It's okay, just keep swimming. As the days go on and you stack this task, you're going to start recognizing a word here and there, and then you're going to hear the same phrase over again, and you're just going to build on that, and down the road, you're going to be very glad that you did this. Phase 3. So now it's time to get uncomfortable and get some real-world experience. If you're too nervous to start a conversation, you can order one of these shirts. The link is in the description. So others start the conversation for you. If you don't have that many Spanish speakers in your area, you can turn to some online resources like omi.tv. The link is in the description. Or Tandem's another good one. The link is in the description. And we're back to one of the mind-numbing parts. There's going to be a lot of repetition when you start having conversations with Spanish speakers, and this is just part of it. You're not going to go from unable to speak to perfectly able to speak overnight. You're just going to have to kind of fail forward. In my experience, a lot of Spanish speakers are really impressed when Americans or foreigners to the Spanish language are trying to immerse themselves and learn. So just keep swimming. You're really not going to speak Spanish until you speak Spanish. If you made it this far in the video, I would like to know what made you quit learning Spanish in the first place. Where was your breaking point? Let me know down below. If you are lost trying to restart learning Spanish, this 3-phase commitment will get you right back on track. Why do I keep rhyming? I swear that's not intentional.